bus that will be unveiled this weekend. So we're going to start a campaign at this Cherry Blossom Festival to get Betty included into the Hall of Famous Missourians. Our plan is that we are going to try to start kick-starting fund to raise the money to bronze Betty's bust to be gifted to the state of Missouri. So if you are a fan of the Andy Griffith Show and you'd like to contribute towards that, Betty actually knew that we were beginning this process several years ago. James had conversations with her, as did I. But we want to show you what James has been working on. And of course, Betty had to wear pink for cherry blossoms, of course. But this is what it will eventually look like and will be bronzed. And I hope that you all will be as excited about this as a way to honor our friend. And on this 20th Cherry Blossom Festival, had it not been for Betty Lynn coming to that first festival, I don't know that we would have had it near as the grassroots support that we did. I learned really quick, James, that people that didn't like American history would come and see Thelma Lou. And then they would stay and learn about American history as part of the process. And of course, pop culture is a big part of our history, is it not? And so today, we honor our good friend Betty, who was so cherished by this festival community. And I hope that you all will be pleased to see this process make several stages. This is just a clay model that's been painted at this point, but we hope to see it completed. And so hopefully, maybe by next year's Cherry Blossom Festival, we'll have a report.
And after that, which one of these?
Yeah, you never know. You never know. So, give James a round of applause for his work on this project, and I hope that you'll feel a good progress report about it by next year's festival. Thank you, James. You did a good job. Miss Betty would be proud of you.
We have a bunch of legends up here, legends of television, legends of film. So please give it, for the 20th anniversary, a warm welcome to our Legends of Television and Film panel. And we're going to go right down the line, so grab a microphone. Beverly, can you pass the mic down to her? And just tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself, and then pass it on, and we'll play it that way.
My name is Martha Nix Wade. I was Martha Nix growing up on TV. My first role was on Days of Our Lives for 3 years. I played Mickey and Maggie's adopted daughter, Janice Horton.
You're a fan.
And then I had a year on the Waltons as Serena Burton. Jeffrey was my brother and Aunt Rose was my grandma. And then I had my own comedy series. It was when cable first came out. It was called Safe at Home. And then I did a lot of the iconic shows like Little House, Silver Spoons, Archie Bunker's Place. So I kept busy from the age of 4 until into my early 20s.
Hi there, I'm Sharon Baird. I was an original Mouseketeer on the Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah! Woo!
We're getting ready to celebrate our 70th anniversary. Can you believe that? We were there the day Disneyland opened, and it's celebrating 70 years in July. It's unbelievable. Anyway, I started with Eddie Cantor on the Colgate Comedy Hour when I was like 7 years old, live TV. And then after the Mickey Mouse Club, I went on and worked for Sid and Marty Krofft on a lot of children's television shows in disguise. I played lots of different characters. I got all the glamour roles. Funky rat, stupid bat, raunchy rabbit. And so I went from a girl mouse to a rat boy because I played the part of Rat Boy in a film that Sandra Locke produced when she was with Clint Eastwood.
That was you?
And so I've had a very
Oh my
flavored career.
Beverly?
And we became very good friends at Disney.
Oh my gosh, that was Rat Boy.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's so nice to be here and see all you lovely people. It's an honor, really. I did most of my work as a child actress. I guess I could best be known from Old Yeller. I played Lisbeth, the girl, the next door neighbor, and that's where Sharon and I met. She was filming the Mickey Mouse Club, and I was doing Old Yeller, and we've been friends ever since. But some of the other shows I was in was Superman and the Mole Men. I was the little girl with the mole men climbing through the window, and we start playing ball. Then I was in Shane, and Here Comes the Groom with Bing Crosby and Jane Wyman, The Juggler with Kirk Douglas. I was a regular on the new Loretta Young show. I was blessed to have done a few wagon trains, one with Lou Costello, which was his first and only dramatic role. Also was in the pilot. I did The Texan, Leave It to Beaver, a lot of different shows, but mostly as a child. And now I'm still doing it. I just did a pilot that's coming out called Dusty Bluffs. And Sharon and Mimi Gibson, who will be here tomorrow, we just did a documentary that will be coming out called Here's Looking at You Kids, about being children in the movie business and about our friendship. And it's wonderful to be here. Thank you so much.
My lovely friend Tammy.
That's great that you're doing something still. How fun! That's great. I'm Tammy Beulah, otherwise known as Reen, and I played Marcia Woolery on the Waltons, which is why I'm here, because of the iconic nature of the show. And I learned from someone a few years ago that Marcia Woolery, my character, was also iconic because he told me that when he was in college, if they met a girl who wouldn't give the phone number, would turn around and, maybe I'll go out with you, maybe I won't. They'd leave and say, well, she's a real Marcia Woolery. The Waltons was my first job, and then recurring was wonderful. I also did a lot of episodic television of the day. I died of a brain tumor on Medical Center and caused trouble on Room 222. And there was just quite a few episodic television series of the day. But I must say that one of my most wonderful and sort of out-of-body experiences was playing the daughter to Lucille Ball and Jackie Gleason on a CBS special when she was done doing her series, and she was doing the CBS specials, about 3 or 4 a year. I played their daughter in one of them, and really, the first time I was really ever nervous doing comedy with Lucille Ball, but it was fun. So I worked from the time I was 16 until I was about 27. I got married, had a couple kids, decided I wanted to go to college, of all things, and did that, and just never looked back. However, I'm interested again, so we should do something.
Well, she's probably the longest reigning guest that we have on our stage. Give it up for Kevin Grimes, Zuzu.
I just have to add, I'm the only one up here that kissed John Boy for real.
While the cameras were rolling, or behind these scenes? Only on camera.
Well, thank you, Richard, for telling everybody that I'm the oldest person here.
No!
I really appreciate that.
Are you going to delete me from Facebook now?
Not as old as me.
No more friends on Facebook.
I'm Carolyn Grimes, and I played in quite a few movies in the 40s and 50s. And I worked with John Wayne, Bing Crosby, Cary Grant, David Nevin, some of the really greats, and I had a wonderful time. But I'm best known for the movie It's a Wonderful Life. And as far as my age is concerned, to let you know, we have a festival every year in Seneca Falls, New York, and it's called the It's a Wonderful Life Festival. And we're coming up on our 80th year.
Wow.
I have wonderful experiences making that film and many more. I also have experiences about some of the people that weren't the greatest, but we had fun anyway. I kind of think that back in the day, I'm dumb because I didn't really get to go to school because I took school on the lot. Did you guys find that as difficult as I did? To go to school on the lot? You didn't? Now see, I didn't have a brain. But I got through life, and I'm still clicking, and I'm going, and I really am so thankful to be here. I was here probably the second year to the Cherry Blossom Festival. And I was here one of the years that Thelma Sue was here, and so Thelma Lou, and we had a wonderful time, except that they had the festival earlier in the year, and it was a cherry blossom festival. And the first year I came, it rained, it snowed, sleeted, it did everything, and it was miserable. So they've changed it and they've moved it forward. So I'm glad that we get to come back every year and just have tornadoes and rain.
This distinguished gentleman's making his second return to the
Yeah, Bubba!
Hey, wow, thank you.
They're saying Bubba out
Something
there.
to be said for tornadoes. You know, to sit here and be called an icon, and I said this the last time and you scolded me. I'm surrounded by all these amazing people, and listening to Richard, I was just transfixed on his stories and everything. Anyway, my name is Alan Kaiser. I was on a show with a true television icon, Vicki Lawrence, called Mama's Family, and Ken Berry, God rest his soul.
Yeah.
One of my favorite human beings, and you know, I had a nice run. I did 95 episodes with them, and of course Dorothy Lyman, the incomparable, amazing Dorothy Lyman, and Beverly Archer as well, and throughout those few years, guest stars that just you know, you talk about moments or people that you worked with for a week or so. Just some of the character actors. He spoke about character actors. Some of the guest stars we had on that show. You know, and the 80s were very good to me in a lot of ways. But you know, being on a show at that time, and I had great management and agents. The byproduct of that period of time was I got to be on the Circus of the Stars. Twice, you know, and I ran away and joined the circus, you know, and they set the whole thing up at Universal Studios, and you literally go and join the circus for 6 weeks because it's pretty hardcore training. And I did it the first year, and the audition process, you go to and these are Barnum and Bailey, the people you work with to train you are just these incredible athletes and gymnasts and so forth. And the first year went really well, and then the second year, somebody had an injury or something, and they called me, and you know, I did that, and the Hollywood Squares, and got a $20,000 pyramid, and you know, I had a lot of fun, you know. But Mama's Family, of course, you know, is just part of my soul, really. So,
well, welcome back, Alan. We're happy to have you.
I'm so happy to be back and invited back here this year. Thank you, guys.
So if we think about movies, and we did like one of these and grabbed both of our cheeks, what movie am I doing?
Home Alone.
Home Alone. That guy right there was in it.
Well, hi, I'm Ray Toller, and I am the mysterious Uncle Rob in Home Alone. And I've been in U.S. Marshals as the truck driver that is kidnapped by Wesley Snipes. I've been in Straight Talk with Dolly Parton as a strip joint owner who wants to hire her. So as everybody's been saying about the character actors, I'm one of those unnamed character actors that I walk down the street and people say, "You look familiar. Where did I know you from?" So I wear a button that says I'm nearly famous. I'm very happy to be here. I'm a Missouri boy, born and bred. I went to school at Missouri State with John Goodman and Kathleen Turner and Tess Harper. We were all students there together. And I graduated from there with a BFA in acting. I went to Florida State and got an MFA in stage directing, and then kind of fell into movie acting by accident. So I'm very happy to be here, and I hope you'll all come and see me in the autograph room tomorrow.
So making her return for the second time.
Yes, and it's such a pleasure to be back. I love your community. I took a trip from Kansas City and drove. We took off the freeway, you know, GPS, and just did country roads. And I'm in love. I want to move to Warsaw. That's a movie set right there. I mean, anyway, I love being here. Thank you so much for inviting me back. I was discovered when I was 14 and did a screen test with Gary Cooper. I had no idea who he was. He was an old man, and I was 14, and I was supposed to go, "Oh, Gary Cooper!" And I went, "Hello, Mr. Cooper." But they liked me at Warner Brothers, and so when I was 19, I took over as the female lead in Hawaiian Eye, the first show ever shot in Hawaii, and way before Magnum or what is it, Hawaii 5-0. And then my family went professional. I'm a member of, some of you remember, the King family. The King, all the blondes that did all the holiday shows. That's my family. And I did, My Three Sons and some other Lucy's and different shows. And I got a call while I was doing the King family from the producer of My Three Sons, and they asked me to come in and talk to them about, they were looking for the wife of Robbie. So I was very fortunate in getting that role. I did that for 5 years and just loved my brother. And then worked with the four King cousins. I was the lead singer. I opened for Bob Hope in Alaska. I was the opening act for Rowan and Martin in Australia. Speaking of Hollywood Squares, that was the scariest thing I've ever done. I'm not smart, I'm not funny, and I was the pretty dumb square. That was scary.
Well, now you're our middle square, right in the middle.
And I'm in the
there
middle,
you go.
and I want you to meet my wonderful brother.
Back for his return visit to Marshfield. Everyone say hi to Stanley Livingston, everybody.
My name is Stanley Livingston. I played on a TV series with Tina, My Three Sons, where I played the character Chip. Who knew? We did that series. It started in 1959. We did the pilot, went on the air in 1960, and lasted till 1972. So we did just short of 400 episodes.
Wow.
And how I got into the industry, before that, I worked with John, my first job. I was in the episode where the older boy, Tommy Reddick, who played Jeff, left the show, gave John the keys to the farm and Lassie, and he runs away and somehow ends up falling in a lake, and he's out there drowning, and Lassie is trying to get somebody to save him. Well, that wasn't him in the water, that was me. I was his stunt double. So, you see that one episode? That's me. In fact, I almost got sucked down in the mud. They told me splash around, but don't look at the camera, and kind of go down and then come back up. Well, I went down and I couldn't come back up. There was goopy mud and it got a hold of my shoes. And I had to do everything in my power to kind of come back up, and did that. Anyway, that got me rolling. I started doing movies. I was in Please Don't Eat the Daisies with Doris Day, David Niven. Rally Around the Flag Boys with Doris Day, David Niven. I did another film called X-15 with Charles Bronson, Mary Tyler Moore. How the West Was Won. Played George Peppard's son in that. And so that's how I got going. What? No, I wasn't in that. So it got me through that. Towards the end of My Three Sons, I got interested behind the camera, and I've been a producer and director ever since. I've produced everything from music videos to documentary to feature films to TV pilots. And I've been in the industry this year 70 years.
Wow.
In fact, somebody called me recently about trying to do a My Three Sons reboot. And I said, well, who would I play? Uncle Charlie? Because I'm older than William Demers was on the show as you saw him. I'll be 75, so
wow.
I'm up there. Yeah, I could be Bub.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back to the festival. Only one person on the stage can actually say they kissed Elvis Presley.
And it was all
Wait a minute.
Oh, darn! Sorry. I didn't want to tell your business.
Is this another story you got here? Huh? Okay. Yeah, my name is Cynthia Pepper, and I started actually when I was 4 in New York. My dad was an entertainer, and we lived in the Windsor Hotel, actually, and I played Julie Harris's youngest sibling in a show called It's a Gift.
And then I went back to LA where I was born, Hollywood, and started school, went to Hollywood High with a few people like Linda Evans and Stephanie Powers and all that. And those, they can't lie about their age because I know how old they are. But anyway, they're wonderful people. And anyway, so I started doing small things. I did Hawaiian Eye, but small part. And then I was fortunate enough to get to play Gene Pearson on My Three Sons. I played Tim Considine's girlfriend, Mike, till I got a show called, and I did about 10 episodes. That was the first year. And then I was fortunate enough to get my own show called Margie on ABC, 20th Century Fox. I played a high school girl in the 20s, which I love the 20s. I think I should have lived there. And Fodo Diodo, and I sat and made a few records. Anyone who could carry a tune made a record, did some fair dates and stuff. And like a lot of us did, Addams Family, Perry Mason, Jimmy Stewart show, movie I did, Take Her She's Mine. I played Sandra Dee's roommate in that film, and Addams Family, Flying I said, Wagon Train with Robert Fuller, and Wanda Fleming played my mom. Anyway, but when I got very fortunate, and I feel part of history because of Elvis, that I got to co-star with him in a movie called Kissing Cousins. And he was a wonderful man, and is a good kisser and a dear, dear, sweet man. But I do have a story in case I don't get to tell it. Should I tell it, Richard?
You can tell it quick, yeah.
You probably, maybe you've heard, have it, but it tells the power of Elvis as far as the fans. They have wonderful fans. He had wonderful fans. And first of all, I forgot to say, and I want to say thank you for coming to see us. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here. Can we applaud that? For you guys, this is for you. I wanted to say that. Anyway, so I'll make it brief. So my son, I've told this story before, but if you have, please bear with me. But if you haven't, I hope you enjoy it. I lived in Vegas, and he was in LA. And he was a grown man, and he used to hang out at a coffee house. And they'd talk and everything. And my son was quite private. My baby's going to be 60 in August. Oh, my God. But anyway, so he said, Mom, we're sitting around talking, and you worked with Elvis. And I said, yes. And he said, well, what year was that? And I told him, and he said, yeah, I don't talk about it too much. But the guys here thought, gee, that's interesting. Did you ever ask your mom if you could be... My son has blue eyes and full lips, and doesn't look like me. And he said, so I want to ask you this question. I went, uh-oh, here we go. I said, what is that? He said, well, did you, and he's very private, but he said, did you have a thing with Elvis? And am I his son? I said, well, first question I won't answer. And the second one, no, you're not. So he says, oh, Mom, that would have been great. That would have been wonderful. And besides, Dad wouldn't mind. I think Dad would have mind. Anyway, thank you. God bless you all. And I feel I'm your family up here. And thank you, Richard, for being so good at what you do.
Thank you. Well, we all love man's best friend. I'm sure there's a lot of dog owners out there, but this man actually got to share so many great episodes playing Timmy on Lassie. John Progress, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. It's such a great festival. Love coming here. As Richard said, 7 years on Lassie from when I was 7 to 14, and everybody wants to know how many Lassies. Well, there's only one Lassie at a time. We didn't have like 5 dogs to do different tricks. There was one Lassie, and in my 7 years, I worked with 3 different collies. The last one, for 5 years. Same dog, so Baby and I, that was his name, we grew up together. I loved that dog, and he loved me, and we did everything together. We slept together, we ate together, but if I told him to do something, like shake hands or whatever, he'd look at me and go, hey, you're my friend, you're not my trainer. Well, when you think about it, it had to be that way, because if he heard a command from somebody else, it might, he might go there. So, Red Weather Wax, the iron trainer, was incredible, and so the dogs were almost human. But, so I started Lassie when I was 7, but my first job, I was not quite 3 years old. It was a movie called So Big with Jane Wyman and Sterling Hayden, and then that started. My next movie was The Country Girl with Bing Crosby and Grace Kelly. and did, 7, 8 movies, and then I was under contract with RKO. And this was just before I got the part of Lassie, 1956. RKO was still owned by Howard Hughes before he sold it to Lucy and Daze. And we filmed a movie in Japan. It was considered a bridge movie. It was only 11 years after the war ended, and it was trying to bring the two countries back together again. So at 6.5 years old, my mom and I spent 3.5 months in Japan, and what an experience that was. And I remember it vividly. And then while I was in Japan, they were looking for a replacement. Well, not a replacement, but for another boy to fill the shoes of Tommy Reddick on Lassie, but they wanted a younger boy. So when I got back from Japan, I met with the producers and the writers of Lassie, and they said, yes, we want you as Timmy, but how do you get along with big dogs? Well, at the time, we were living in Pomona, California, and my sister had a horse, I had a pony, we had a goat. And so, an animal, I always, raised around dogs and all kinds of animals, so that was not a problem. But they wanted to be sure, so I went and lived with Red Weather Wax and Lassie on his ranch out in the San Fernando Valley for a long weekend to see how we got along. We went back into the studio at RKO, and now, well, it was still RKO, and walked into the producers and the director's office, and everybody was there, and we walked in, and I like to say Lassie gave me 2 paws up, and I got the job. So yeah, and it was great. And one thing, like I said, I've always loved dogs. Well, 7 years old, and back then Lassie was insured for $1 million. So Red Weather Wax, he said, look, kid, he goes, if you don't bug Lassie this first year, don't pull his tail, don't ride him, whatever. He said, I'll give you a Lassie puppy for your 8th birthday. But I had to earn 100 points that year, which I did. The points went up and down, but I got my 100 points. And then for my 8th birthday, I was presented with a Lassie puppy. Yeah.
How long did you have that Lassie puppy for?
Well, my family's all from the South. My dad's from Alabama, my mom's from Texas. And Grandma had a 120-acre ranch outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas. Every summer, we would go visit Grandma. And we'd take Rudd with us, the dog. And I'm working 5 days a week. My dad worked. So, he had to stay home. And that wasn't fair. So we saw how much he enjoyed Grandma's farm. And so one year we left him with Grandma. And so he spent the rest of his life, and we saw him every year, but the rest of his life chasing rabbits in Arkansas.
He really was that. No, he's gone to a farm.
Well, he looked good in a hat in Daniel Boone, and he still looks pretty darn good in a hat. Welcome back, Darby Hinton, everybody.
Thank you. And I want to say it's an honor to be here for the 20th anniversary. I think this is wonderful. I also want to acknowledge all these people that got a late start in the business, because I started when I was 6 months old. And then that was TV, and then I didn't do my first movie till I was 3. So, but yes, as you mentioned, I had the great pleasure of playing Fess Parker's son for 6 years on Daniel Boone, which was great. I'm still doing things, so I'm not going to go through the list of what I've done, but some of you might remember Days of Our Lives. There you go. I was the Salem rapist on that. that was interesting homework.
Take the mic away from Darby.
I started out good. I was a probation officer to start. But anyway, but I just gotta say it's so nice because earlier today I went to the elementary school and was talking to the class. And, trying to answer their question, it was like, well, do you know anybody famous? Well, yeah, my godfather's Charlton Heston. Who? Well, my sister's godmother's Jane Russell. Who? It's like, do you know Paul Newman? Oh, the chef, yeah, the one that salad dressing guy, yeah. So it's nice to, if I drop some names here, you'll actually know who I'm talking about.
Darby, this is your audience.
Yeah.
This is the audience. Yeah.
I love it. So that's it. Like I said, it's great to be here again. And instead of focusing on the past ones, I want you to know I got 4 projects coming out this year. I want you to look for them. One was Once a Hero that I'm very proud of. It's in select theaters now. It'll be streaming probably in a couple of months. Then there's Contested Planes, which is a great true story about coming across the German family that got massacred and the kids kidnapped and everything. Then, Sod and Stubble. Anybody read the book, Sod and Stubble? No, okay. Well, there you go. Yeah. And we made a movie about that, so that's coming out. And then a very quirky one. It's either going to work or I'm going to come move up here somewhere. And that's called Cowboy Killer, a love western. So that's it. If you want to fill in the extra, I will say about Hawaii, the thing that was interesting is was last year or the year before, I did a Magnum PI, the new one. And I had done an old Magnum 40 years earlier. So I'm like, wow, Tom's not here, but Ferrari is.
Welcome back, Darby. We're glad to have you back. Little Elizabeth Long. Right?
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. Cami Holland.
I'm Cami, and I have the shortest bio here. I started working at 6 on the Waltons, and I pretty much played Elizabeth Walton until I turned 16. And then I went off to college and got a real job.
Smart.
Yeah, that's my story. All right.
Well, welcome back. We love having you. We love our Waltons and Little Allison family, and we love our legends of television and film. Okay, so we're going to do this a little different. We're going to take a few questions from you guys, because I know that you probably have some questions. So if you do, raise your hand.
I got to know about Ken Berry, please.
Ken Berry, it's hard for me to talk about. That's how much he meant to me. He truly was, just personally for me, I mean, he really was a mentor and a father figure and a friend.
Ken he played Uncle Vint.
He played Uncle Vint on Mama's Family. He was Bubba's uncle. And he was one of those, he was so funny, but he didn't really know he was funny. He just had there was so much humility in his craft and the way he approached it. And sometimes he would say something and we'd all start laughing and he'd look around and then he'd start laughing at him. Say he just had no idea how funny he was and so talented and just beautiful singing voice. He was an amazing dancer. He was an incredible dancer. So, always a blast to work with and to be friends with. He mentored me through some challenging times. I was 22 years old when I got that job, and he really was a good mentor. And, we spoke, we stayed in touch, and can't remember, it's 4 or 5 years now, but, and I talked to him on his birthday on November 3rd, like I did every year, and then 3 weeks later he passed away. So that was a tough one, but yeah, he was just a gem. Yeah, thank you.
Two of you mentioned working with Jane Wyman, who was in another Earl Hamner hit show, Falcon Crest. Can you share a couple stories about Jane Wyman, please?
Jane Wyman. Who worked with Jane Wyman? Beverly?
I did, but I don't remember it.
Don't remember?
I wasn't 3 years old. Who remembers 3? That's my 2 cents.
I worked with Jane Wyman. It was a movie called Here Comes the Groom, starring Bing Crosby, Jane Wyman, Fran Chateau, Alexis Smith, and I played a French war orphan that Bing Crosby adopts. And what's weird about it is that it won the Oscar that year for the best song. It was in the Cool, Cool, Cool of the Evening, which Jane Wyman sang. And it was written by Johnny Mercer and Hoagie Carmichael. And the wardrobe lady on that was Edith Head. The director was Frank Capra, and yet hardly anybody's ever heard of it, but it's a really cute movie. And I was 7 at the time, and they wanted me to look even younger so that I looked like I didn't have any teeth. So every morning I'd go into the makeup room, and it wasn't paint, obviously, but it looked like paint. It was black. And I would sit in the chair, and they would paint black across my front teeth so that when I would smile, it looked like I didn't have any teeth. And it was Jane Wyman was a lovely, lovely woman, and she gave me a beautiful dress for my birthday, and for Christmas. And I still have it, and I feel very blessed that I got to work with her.
She worked on My Three Sons, and she played a socialite, a person who had an interest in Fred McMurray. So she was a socialite on the show, and they dated. And as always, Fred, was looking for, I guess, greener pastures. It was like the first episode of My Three Sons. Fred and I went on a double date, and we were both trying to ditch our dates. Well, that seemed to be a recurring theme of My Three Sons. In 12 years, Fred never remarried. Well, he did when he got to Barbara, so it took about 7 years to get to that point. But yeah, she came in, and she had her own dressing room, which was unusual for My Three Sons. If you weren't one of the main cast, they usually set up a box for you to change clothes. But there was another trailer outside, and it had her name on it, so she was treated with respect. And interestingly, My Three Sons sort of became a repository for actors who had great movie careers, or kind of later in life, and I guess roles weren't coming as much as they liked, and they were accepting roles on TV, but because of Fred McMurray's participation in the show, it made it okay to do TV, because normally they wouldn't have.
How was it like, what was it like playing with Fess Parker?
He was great. I lost my own dad when I was only about 18 months old, so, around there. So it was a real blessing to get to grow up with Fess. A lot of people ask me, what was he like? What you saw on the show. He was that way. He's great. I'm still great friends with Eli and Ashley, his daughters. I was there when he passed, and then his wife unfortunately went through some of the dementia and stuff, and tried doing that, and that kind of what led me to the movie Was Once a Hero, because that's about somebody suffering with battle fatigue and dementia and stuff. But Fess was great. I loved it, and so was Rosie Greer. So was Ed Ames. Jimmy Dean was fun. But yeah, he was great.
Okay, so my one of my favorite shows is Mama's Family. I've watched it most of my life. I love it. My question to you is, what is your favorite moment from that show, and how could you keep a straight face with working with Vicki Lawrence?
Well, most of the bloopers on the reel are mine, to be honest. It's so funny when Richard spoke about, well, I have a lot of children, and some days, well, this one's my favorite or that one's my favorite. I'm not sure I can really narrow it down to a favorite episode, but the one that has always kind of stood out was when Yardley Smith guest starred and played the Keek, Bonita Rokiki, and she had escaped from juvenile hall and then came and broke into the house and all of that, and man, she came to win, and it was early on in the run for me, and she had done a lot of work, beforehand, and it was maybe the 4th or 5th episode that I did. And keep in mind, I was 22 years old, and here I am, my second or third job in Hollywood. I'm on a TV series with Vicki Lawrence and Ken Berry, and I'm scared to death anyway. But this young woman comes on, and she was so prepared and diligent and brave and skilled, and I really just looked up to her, and she kind of helped define me, or the character, Bubba. She helped me kind of navigate that character that I'd be playing. Because the one thing I was told from day one is you're not to do don't impersonate Carol Burnett, your mom. She played Bubba's mom. They didn't want me to be too, but Yardley came in, and the reason I always mention Yardley is because fast forward to now, all the fantastic things that she is doing for equality across the board and the platform that she represents, and she's just an amazing woman to me. So I have a lot of respect for her, and it was a privilege to be able to work with her back then.
Carolyn, one word to describe General Jimmy Stewart.
Elegant, kind. He was quiet. He was intelligent. He was the most caring man that I know of, because I've learned a lot since I worked with him about the things he's done for humanity and how he's helped this world in so many ways. And we're coming out with a movie called Jimmy, and it's going to be released.
Who's playing Jimmy Stewart?
It's a fellow off from Broadway. I can't really tell you his name because I haven't met him, so I don't know. But it's coming out. It's going to premiere hopefully at the Seneca Falls Festival on 19th the next year, 26.
Good.
And I'm going to go to Ireland and film it. They're filming it in Cork, and it's kind of about his military career.
Did you know that he was a general? Yeah, he was. Is it harder to play a character that's in a mask behind makeup, Sharon, than it is if you're, I hear it is, because you can't show your emotions?
No, because you learn how to show emotions behind a mask. I call myself a character actor because I've played so many different types of characters, and it's always fun getting a new character to play. I mean, like playing Pakuni in Land of the Lost is totally different than playing Shirley Puppet stuff. So you get to go through all different kinds of emotions. So I think it's more fun being behind the mask, to tell you the truth.
Was work just fun for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Was work just fun for you?
I loved working. I mean, you say Land of the Lost and Wesley Ure. I had a dream. He was on Days of Our Lives in addition to Land of the Lost. And I had a dream that I was going to work with him. And like in the next week, I was cast on Days of Our Lives with Wes Ure. And it was like a dream come true because he was hot. And at 7 years old, I'm like, dude. And then here I am working with him, and every day was a unique adventure, you know? You'd do a commercial and you'd be sitting in the front seat with the bobcat in the back of you. Or you'd be on the Waltons driving a car and holding a chicken. And it was like, regular school is so boring. And so every day was a unique adventure. And I loved growing up in the industry, and people were like, well, wasn't it difficult? No, it was more difficult being normal.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing time, and I had great friends.
One of a number of stars that were at a fundraising event for the Melrose School in Santa Monica, California. And I actually got your autograph that day. And I remember you as a blonde-haired, short little squirt. So it's nice to see you grew up until now.
Answer that.
You can go to the autograph show because all of these wonderful stars and many more are going to be at the autograph show tomorrow.
Please come to the table and show me
that. And you have to sign the same page.
Hopefully my handwriting is improved.
It's not very good. It's not very good. I just looked at it. One more question.
Ray, this is for Ray Toller. Ray, before you became nearly famous, you worked extensively at Silver Dollar City. Yeah. And when you worked at Silver Dollar City, you worked with the Beverly Hillbillies cast. Can you highlight an experience that you remember from that?
All right, I was looking for the mic and asked the question.
You worked with some of the cast from the Beverly Hillbillies.
Yeah, I entertained in the Branson area for about 8 years, and played I was a train robber. I was the deputy. When the Beverly Hillbillies came down to film, Ellie Mae got to shoot my pants off of me. And
as part of the show, or
yeah, part of the show.
Just checking.
Yeah, I had these trick pants that had buttons on the front with little cotter pins in the back and weights sewn down the legs. And she would fire her shotgun, and I would pull the cotter pins the buttons would pop up, the suspenders would fly up, and the pants would go down. And they used that clip on I don't know how many episodes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, give them one more round of applause. Our legends of television and film. They are all going to be at the autograph show tomorrow, which is going to be held at the community center. Make sure you go over there. It starts at 9 o'clock. Start lining up, get there early. They're all going to be there to sign whatever you bring to them, or they'll have wonderful pictures or books at their table. It starts at 10 o'clock. They're waving at me.